So please put your hands together for the 2025 Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team. It's the Red Arrows! Arriving at over 400 miles per hour, trailing our famous red, white and blue. Red one eases them up and brings them around to the right, as I said, to start the show, rolling. You'll now see Reds 6 and 7 collapse to sit in behind Red 1. Reds 8 and 9 will also move in to form our world-famous Diamond 9. Leading the team for the second year this year is one of your own. He's an Essex boy, squad leader John Bond, known as Bondy. He's a former Typhoon pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the Tucano, and he was the display pilot in 2012. From the right, in our world-famous Diamond 9, it's the Red Arrows. On the right-hand side of Red 1 is Red 2, Flight Lieutenant Rob Thomas. Rob is in his first year on the team. Uniquely, he was taken from training and made straight into instructor on the Hawk. Before then, completing his own training, joining the Typhoon Force, where he has served on operations with 3 Squadron over Iraq and Syria, and then became an instructor on the Operations Conversion Unit, 29 Squadron, all based RF Conisby in Lincolnshire. You now see the centre stem move forward, touching the wings of the formation, moving rearwards. Reds 8 and 9 split, one of the widest formations we fly in 2025. From the left, in the Swan. From Red 1, almost robotic and monotone in that delivery, and that's because we fly our formation by ear rather than by eye. And this means the pilots on the outside of the formation put their inputs into the control column just a little bit earlier than those on the inside to make the formation move as one. Reds 8 and 9 move in to sit behind 2 and 3 to form the shape of one of the most iconic aircraft in aviation history. Red 1 continues to bring them around to left. The smoke guns on in the Concorde.
Look up, guys.
On the left-hand side, that centre stem is Red 3, Flight Lieutenant Andrew McEwen, known as Macca. Macca is also in his first year on the team. He flew the Aviate-B while on exchange with the United States Marine Corps, which is a Harrier variant, before then coming back to the UK. And he's the first pilot on the Red Arrows to have flown our new Royal Air Force 5th generation fighter, the F-35B, based at RAF Marham in Norfolk. 2025 celebrates the 20th anniversary of the Royal Air Force Typhoon display team. Reds 2 and 3 move up the rear section, form the Delta Wing in celebration of that 20th anniversary. From the right, the Red Arrows continue to come around to form and fly the Typhoon roll. On the right-hand side, all the way at the back, is Red 4 Squadron leader Chris McCann. He's working extremely hard, looking through the formation at Red 1, because we take all our formation references from Red 1 and not necessarily the aircraft that's on the inside. Red 4 Chris McCann is in his second year at the team, and again, he was taken from training, made straight into an instructor on the Tucano, before then completing his own training, joining the Tornado GR4 Force, where he flew with the world-famous Dambuster Squadron 617, based at RAF Lossiemouth, and Chris also received an Air Force Cross for his service on operations over Afghanistan. The rear section moved forward because the Royal Air Force is famous for its operations in air. However, these days we have a capability also in space and cyber. And to represent that capability in space and cyber, the team have now formed the shape of a spacecraft. This is Apollo. There are actually 11 pilots on the Red Arrows. Reds 1 through 9 displaying for you today. Myself, Red 10, former Tornado GR4 pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the Hawk Team Mark II. And as I said earlier, this is my 4th and final year on the Red Arrows. And of course, we are commanded by Wing Commander Red Arrows, Wing Commander Adam Collins, former Tornado GR4 pilot, former Red 10, former F111 pilot while on exchange with the Royal Australian Air Force. Reds 8 and 9 now move left and right, 6 and 7 split at the rear. Get your cameras ready for a fantastic photo opportunity as Red 1 brings them around to left for the colourful Big Vixen. It's underneath the belly of the aeroplane towards the rear. This has twofold effect. The first effect means the pilots fly with a higher throttle setting, thereby producing a hotter engine gas temperature, and that makes the smoke colours burn a lot more brightly. In addition, it disturbs the airflow outside the back of the aeroplane, and that makes the smoke billow a lot more fuller. And therefore, in certain manoeuvres throughout this display, we use that technique to enhance that manoeuvre. Red 1 makes the call. Once again, you'll see Reds 6 and 7 move inside to sit behind Red 1. Reds 8 and 9 sit on trail for undoubtedly the most popular, if not the most popular manoeuvre the Red Arrows fly. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get your cameras ready. In from the right, this is tornado time!
Look off, guys. Nice.
8 and 9, roll goes, Reds 8 and 9, roll around the rest of the formation. But watch for the colour change as Red 1 brings them down the line. One individual with me at every display is Circus 10. Circus 10 is Air Specialist 1, Irwin Lewis, who's with me today. He's in front of the lifeboat station, filming the display for debriefing and safety purposes. The team have now formed once again our famous Diamond 9. This will be your last opportunity to get a picture of us in our Diamond 9 before we start the second half of the show. The smoke comes on once again in our Diamond 9. It's the Red Arrows. As we go into the second half, it's the more dynamic, fast-paced, hard-pumping start of the display. We start it with the 5-4 split. And in the second half, we operate in two distinct sections. Off to the left-hand side is Reds 1 through 5, known as Enid, named after Enid Blyton's famous 5. The right-hand side is 6, 7, 8 and 9, known as Hannah, named after Squad Leader Ray Hannah, one of the first members of the Red Arrows, the only team leader to lead the team for 4 years. He took the team from a 7 to a 9 and formed our world-famous Diamond 9. Enid from the left, Hannah from the right for the colourful 5-4 cross. Red 5 starts to move in to sit behind Red 1, and Red 4 sits in trail on the rest of Enid. Number 4, roll, go. The board call is made from 4 as he rolls around the rest of the smoke of Enid in the twister. Sat behind Red 1 is Red 5, Flight Lieutenant Dustin Wales, known as Dusty. Dusty is in his second year on the team. He's a former Typhoon pilot, having served with 3 Squadron. He was an instructor on the Typhoon on 29 Squadron and also a test pilot on 41 Squadron, all based at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire. As Enid leaves to the right, look directly to your front. You can see the 4 aircraft of Red 6, 7, 8 and 9. The red and the blue come on from Reds 8 and 9 as they roll around synchro. Get your cameras ready for the Hannah break. Red 6 and 8 to our left-hand side, Red 7 and 9 to our right-hand side. Hannah and the synchro pair are led by the synchro leader, that's Red 6 to the left, smoking right. Squadron leader Tom Hanswell. Tom is in his 3rd and final year of the team. He's a former Typhoon pilot, former qualified weapons instructor on the Typhoon, which meant he would teach all weapons, technical information and tactics to the entire Typhoon force. Each aircraft will now dive down to approximately 100 feet over the sea. They have a closing speed of over 900 miles per hour to perform their next manoeuvre called the Hannah Pass. From Red 6 is Red 6 to our right and Red 7 to our left. Pull up. Red 7 to our left is Flight Lieutenant Joseph Day, second year in the team. Former Typhoon pilot. Each aircraft will up to 5G limits of active 2,500 to 3,000 feet. They're inverted 60 degrees left down and roll the runway up to come back to the centre in the manoeuvre called the boomerang. Each aircraft pass at wingtip to wingtip line in 30 metres, 100 feet. They turn hard away from each other out to 6G, turning the boomerang into a cyclone. In from the right-hand side, you've got Enid coming back in with the nose light and trail. The smoke comes on, get down as they inform the inverted V. Looking to the left-hand side, you're looking for Red 9. Red 9 coming from the left is travelling at over 500 miles per hour. He lines up with Enid for the Goose. And now the flight attendant Saturday. Boys in his 30s in the team, former Torino G4 pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the team number 2. As Enid leaves to the left-hand side, look directly to your front and you're looking for the single pair over the wind farms in the distance. And just starting to come into view, you might be able to see their nose lights twinkling in the distance as they both ease up. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, get your cameras ready. This is the one you do not want to miss. The smoke will come on as they part to form the world-famous synchro heart. Coming in from the top right-hand side is Red 8 as he spears the heart. Red 8 is Flight Lieutenant Rich Walker, an extremely experienced aviator, having flown Harrier and Typhoon and being a qualified flight instructor on the Hawk Team Mark II. And he's also his 3rd and final year on the team. So Clacton, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's give a huge round of applause for wonderful hearts in the skies of Clacton. Well, the show's not over yet. Keep your eye on the synchro pair. They will both turn back towards the display line. Coming in from the right and the left. They'll be diving down to approximately 100 feet. They've got that closing speed of over 900 miles per hour. Each aircraft will perform a barrel roll. Cross in the middle, wingtip to wingtip, 30 metres, only 100 feet, followed by a second barrel roll in a manoeuvre called the double rolls. Reds 8 and 9 roll goes. Reds 8 and 9 roll around the smoke once again in a manoeuvre called the corkscrew. To our front right 45, keep looking to your left, keep looking to your right. You're looking for the single pair returning back to the display area once again. Each aircraft will perform a barrel roll. They'll cross in the middle for the manoeuvre called the circus. Wingtip to wingtip, 30 metres, 100 feet. They're now going to hard up to 6G. That means everything about them is weighing 6 times heavier than what you and I are if we stand on the beach. Red 7 changes to blue, Red 6 changes to red. They're pulling up to 6G, Red 7 to our left, keeping an eye on Red 6 to ensure he has that missed distance as they complete the manoeuvre called the circus. The blue is on, Red 1 flies a barrel roll in the sky, leaving a snake-like smoke trail in the sky in the manoeuvre called the Serpent. Another great opportunity to see our famous red, white and blue. That red, white and blue is only capable due to the smoke pod under the belly of the aeroplane. That smoke pod is capable of producing approximately 5 minutes of white smoke, 1 minute of red smoke and 1 minute of blue smoke. Each of those smoke colours had its own buttons on the pilot's control column. The Johnwood's trainings, Red 1 and Red 6, come up with a smoke plan to ensure we have the right colour smoke at the right time in the display and we simply do not run out. Reds 2, 3, 4 and 5 now move up, looking 90 degrees along their shoulder line out Red 1, pulling up to 4G, an extremely hard formation to maintain. The smoke comes on from the right-hand side in the tango. To your left, look to your right. You're looking for Red 6 and 9 from the left, Red 7 and 8 from the right for the first of our new manoeuvres in 2025. This is the chainsaw. Red 6 and 9 inverted for up to 30 seconds, all the blood rushing to their head. Conversely, they now turn all the negative G into positive G. All the blood in their head now rushing to their feet. They're working hard against the G pants. Keep an eye on Red 7 and 8 to the left-hand side as they complete the chainsaw. In from the left-hand side, Enid, Reds 1 through 5, the smoke is on.
2 and 3, roll.
2 and 3, roll go as Reds 2 and 3 roll to the outside. As Enid leaves to the right, look directly to your front once again over the wind farms. You're looking for Hannah on the nose lights and the smoke to come on. 8 and 9 roll go, the red and the blue from 8 and 9 roll go as they roll around the smoke in Red 6 for the second of our new manoeuvres for 2025. Red 6, Red 8, Red 9, and hiding in the smoke of Red 6 is Red 7 in the Tempest. For the 2025 Royal Air Force aerobatic team, it's the Red Arrows! Red 1 puts his smoke on, he'll gather the rest of the formation, take them back to RAF Millwood Hall where we'll refuel, re-dye the jets, and we'll travel down to Exeter for a show later on this evening at 6:30 in Sidmouth on the southwest coast. Before then coming back to Millwood Hall tomorrow, and then we're off to Denmark to display on Sunday, and then we go down to Poland for the rest of the week. Yeah, an extremely busy week for us from Denmark down to Poland. As I said, it's my fourth and final year on the team. If you want to follow the Red Arrows, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, RAF Red Arrows. I have my own pilot account, RAF Red 10. Find me, you can follow the rest of the team as well. As I said, fourth and final year on the team. It's been an absolute honour and a pleasure to be part of this team. I represent the Royal Air Force.
So you're really sitting on top of a roller coaster while pulling this airplane around through the air.
And after you land at Clacton, after today's display, you'll be off back home to Flanders Fields.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're actually based in Flanders Fields, just close to Ypres, in fact. So, I mean, we're based in a very emotional area, actually. I mean, we fly over all the cemeteries. Tyne is very close by as well. I mean, actually, when we fly home, we fly straight over Tyne going home.
It's very poignant.
It is.
Tony, thank you so much for seeing us on BBC Essex, and we can't wait for the display this afternoon.
Thank you very much, and it's totally a pleasure to be here. Again, you know, like, we love coming to Clacton.
Radio Airshow. BBC.
in his Pitts aircraft, that bright blue aircraft that's just snuck in from the right-hand side. It arrived with that wonderful that manoeuvre of it just sort of hanging in the sky, Sam Williams, as it drifted along from the Martello Tower end towards the pier.
Yes, he likes to make an entrance, doesn't he, Rich Goodwin, on arrival. That was the knife edge pass. It's one of my firm favourites. We're going to be seeing some ultimate aerobatics now, with some twirling, some spinning, some rolling, plenty of G and high energy fun. So get your cameras ready, because this is going to be an absolute delight. Into the vertical there. He's powered by a 6-cylinder, 8.5-litre Lycoming engine, producing over 300 horsepower. It has an excellent power-to-weight ratio. The aircraft is incredibly lightweight, weighing just 700 kilograms. And a top speed of over 200 miles an hour. Rich will be pulling G up to 6G minus 5 during the display. Now his aircraft is a GJ Pitt is the registration, and it's built from scratch. It took him around 4 years to build the aircraft, based on a Pitts S2S fuselage, and it incorporates lots of tested modifications to the aircraft, not least a huge wing, a massive wing area, giving it a phenomenal roll rate, massive ailerons, and better low-speed handling. See there that Rich is literally just pausing in the sky, going at 0 miles per hour, hanging the aircraft on the prop as he then tumbles down, gaining some airspeed, ready to pull it into the next manoeuvre. He's got a phenomenal smoke system with the smoke trailing behind him. And yes, it is environmentally friendly smoke that he uses during the displays. Tumbling on the top there. Now during the display, Rich will be looking at his position over the display area, making sure he's the appropriate distance from the crowd. He will be looking at the wind, checking the temperature of the engine and the oil, meanwhile making sure he's at the right point on his routine. How is the aircraft behaving? How is he feeling? And is he on schedule? So much to think about. These aerobatic pilots are very talented. A lovely little side slip there with the smoke trailing. He's pointing out towards the wind farm, and there he is, pausing momentarily, not even moving. I mean, Ian, what do you think about that?
That's amazing. He's just like hovering in the sky. It's incredible to see this biplane just hover, almost like a helicopter would.
And there he was, just gently sliding down, a tail slide down slowly, and then pulling away. You'll notice, Ian, that in times in the display, there's moments like this where he just kind of gathers himself, resettles the aircraft before pulling into another high-energy manoeuvre. One of the talents of aerobatic routines is the on-off aerobatics. One moment going super slowly or not even moving, and the next minute high-speed twirling.
Climbing high into the sky, turning as he goes, and now down again. That smoke, that environmentally friendly smoke trailing out the back. Smoke is now off as Rich now makes his way along the seafront from left to right, giving us a nice view of the undercarriage.
Now, this is based on a pit special aircraft, but the standard pit gear has been removed and the engine mount modified to take the titanium sprung gear legs, and then there's a new shape and carbon cowling to reduce weight and profile drag. It's a modified rudder design, which gives it a better look and more powerful yaw control, which basically means where you can move the aircraft side to side. It has new rings, as I mentioned, and an absolutely amazing roll rate. Now, ordinarily, this aircraft is fitted with two ATM Lynx jet turbine engines, powering up to 700 pounds of thrust. But at the moment, those engines are away in Holland for maintenance. So today, Rich is flying just with the 8.5-litre Lycoming engine.
But he's doing just as good a job with that, isn't he? Flying, inverted now. Yes, it's a little bit upside down flying.
Now, of course, when you're flying upside down, the controls are literally backwards. So if you want to pull up, you have to push down. If you want to go down, you have to pull up. So you literally need to wire your brain backwards to be able to perform the maneuvers. And there he is, climbing up, gaining speed, pulling up into a loop, diving down towards the sea, just above the Coast Guard there, smoke trailing. And another knife edge pass, and twirling at the top.
It really is a fantastic sight. Bit of sun now breaking through the clouds, a little bit of blue coming, glinting on those wings. Actually, I mentioned this yesterday, the colour of this Pitts aircraft is sky blue, it's bright blue, and yesterday when he arrived, the clouds parted and we saw some blue, and it's happened again today. We met Rich yesterday on BBC Essex, and you know, he's a fit chap. You really have to be, Sam, don't you? I mean, people might think you're just sitting in an aircraft with the controls, but the physical toll on your body to do this is incredible.
It is, and peak physical fitness is absolute priority for aerobatic pilots if they're to actually be comfortable and capable of flying these high-energy manoeuvres. And in fact, both yesterday and today, Rich went for a morning run with the Firebirds pilots, and they went for like a 45-minute run before breakfast.
And then decimated the breakfast buffet, apparently.
Yeah, I think they went for thirds. Now, the Pitts is known around the world as a Pitt Special's revolutionary design, popular in aerobatic competitions. They fly recreationally and for air displays, but the origins of the aircraft date back to the 1940s when Curtis Pitts in the USA designed the original aircraft, which took to the skies in 1944. This aircraft is the legacy of that type, albeit a modernised variant that's produced today. But it's true testament to Curtis's design and work that 80 years on, the Pitt Special is still flying. Now, the second ever Pitts that was built was an aircraft that was owned by a famous pilot called Betty Skelton. She's one of my aviation heroes. Now, she bought the second Pitts Special, and she called it the Little Stinker. And she would go and fly at air shows and do a clever little trick where she got a member of the public to hold a pole up and another member of her team hold the other pole with a ribbon across. She would fly inverted upside down and cut the ribbon with the wings of the aeroplane.
Fabulous. Actually, talking about women in aviation, it's sad that we couldn't have Melanie Asdale with us at Clacton this year. She was very much hoping to be here. We'll see her in your programme, which they are still available, £6 from the seafront sellers. And unfortunately, Melanie can't be here because of a little problem with the aircraft. But Melanie is a world champion, a French aviation aerobatic champion, and has been involved with the Red Bull Air Race, which is unusual for a woman, it has to be said, Sam.
She's the first and only woman to have flown on the Red Bull Air Race. She's also not just the French aerobatic champion, but I believe she's the current British aerobatic champion as well.
but it's good to mention her, and hopefully we'll see her at future Clacton air shows. Well, that was absolutely epic. I think Rich is just banking round now. I can just see him now to my right. He's coming past us on the seafront. He's just dipped his left wing down, so we're getting a view of the top side this time.
So it's another knife edge pass. Look at that absolute precision as he holds the aircraft on a 45-degree angle, smoke trailing from behind. The roar of that 8.5 litre Lycoming engine thrusting past us. Now, Rich is a ex-RAF Tornado pilot and a retired commercial airline pilot. He used to fly Boeing 767s, so he may have flown you on your holidays at some stage. He's been flying aerobatics for more than 30 years. He's also flown the Hawk in advanced flying training, but the buzz and thrill of spinning an aircraft around the sky has never left him, and he absolutely adores flying aerobatics.
I'm not sure how I'd feel if I was strapped in, ready to go off to, you know, Alicante or something, and I heard the announcement, your pilot is Rich Goodwin. I'd obviously be reassured in some ways, but I'd be a little nervous as well.
I think you're in bed.
But as we say goodbye to Rich Goodwin, we say hello to Tony Dimron in his Bronco. Yes, this is the one with those bright orange markings that we were talking about just a moment ago. A rather unusual looking aircraft, Sam, with the twin propeller and twin tails.
Yes, absolutely. This is the North American Rockwell OV-10 Bronco, and it was designed in the 1960s, predominantly for use in hostile conditions. The huge fin at the back and wide wingspan allows the aircraft for a short takeoff and landing, because this aircraft was designed to land on roads and hills and jungle-like conditions and used in operations in Vietnam and the Philippines.
It's got such a distinctive look in the sky as it passes now over the Gunfleet wind farms that we were talking about earlier, coming back now towards the end of the pier. A great view if you're watching on the end of the pier, and good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us on BBC Essex. The light is on, he's coming towards us.
Now, the Bronco is often nicknamed the bucking Bronco because of its amazing maneuverability. But if you look now at the centre of the display line, the gear is down, and Tony is showing us the slow pass, sometimes called the dirty pass, with the gear down. Now, this aircraft during the display will go from super slow speeds to high speeds. Watch out for the really short turning radius of the aircraft. Demonstrate the aircraft's short takeoff and landing, its stall capability, its excellent maneuverability, the short turn radius, and the impressive roll rate. Tony absolutely loves performing at display routines in the Bronco. He loves the maneuverability of the aircraft and likes to show it off during the display.
You'll just have heard the beach patrollers, if you're on the beach, just with the loudspeakers, asking you to stay out of the water. So if you're perhaps listening to this on the prom, please beckon your youngsters off the out of the water and back onto the beach, please. If they're straying onto the water, that's a safety issue for us. So please help the beach patrollers follow their instructions and stay out of the water whilst the aircraft are flying. Look at that sun catching those bright orange wingtips as Tony banks round very high in the sky. We get that distinctive look with that twin tail. Bit of smoke coming out, coming down much lower now for a great photo. Seeing the belly of the aircraft, and the cargo area, Sam, can hold quite a lot of stuff. 2,400 pounds of cargo, 6 paratroopers or 2 stretchers with a medic. Just gives you a little bit of a concept of context of the capabilities of this aircraft.
So it's an American turboprop light attack and observation aircraft developed in the 1960s, especially for counterinsurgency combat, and one of its primary missions was as a forward advanced control aircraft. It was in fact designed by 2 US Marines who built the concept in their garage. The aircraft would have flown the first ever flight on July 1965, and it served in 3 US branches from 65 until 95, the Air Force, the Navy and the Marines.
Lots of boats out to sea in the safe zone, watching the aircraft from the other side, including one of those barges, those Thames barges. I'm guessing that will be Thistle on her 130th birthday. Apologies if it's Pudge, but I know Thistle was planning to be here to celebrate its 130th birthday at the Clacton Airshow. Good afternoon to you if you're on board and tuned in to us. Oh, that's nice. That's what you call a wing waggle.
That was a ginormous wing waggle. Now, Tony's really showing off the capabilities of the aircraft there. So when they were actually used in a kind of combat situation, the Bronco would be used for armor protection. It has bullet-resistant windshields, self-sealing fuel cells. It's ideal for operating in a hostile environment. The Bronco can loiter for up to 3 hours at speeds of 350 miles per hour. And it would have been seen in countries such as Germany, Thailand, Venezuela and in Indonesia. As we said earlier, the Vietnam War used them, as well as in the Philippines.
I love the fact that the original idea was for it to be amphibious. I think that would have been absolutely amazing. Tony would have loved that, wouldn't he?
Oh, he would have loved it, for sure. He's doing a deep dive now, look, Ian, as he comes down towards the Thames barges to the centre of the display line. The gear is down. Now, that gear was designed to allow him the Bronco to land on roads. It could also operate from an aircraft carrier. And Tony's flown the Bronco over from his base at Wilvenhelm, a Kortrijk in Belgium, just on the area of the Flanders fields. Takes him about 30 minutes to fly to Clacton. Those of you that have long camera lenses or have seen photographs of the Bronco will notice that the aircraft is in a dark green colour with the orange tips, but it also has German markings. The reason for that is the Belgian airfield where Tony was based from was started by the Germans in World War I as a fighter base, and in honour of that, for messages of peace and reconciliation, Tony chose to leave the original markings of that aircraft.
We heard from him on BBC Essex just a few moments ago in an interview we recorded when he came to see us earlier on, and I can't tell you, I know you're probably thinking he's just saying that.
The Spitfire, the most famous military aircraft of all time and arguably one of the most beautiful ever built. The Spitfire is perhaps chiefly remembered as the symbol of the Battle of Britain. Meanwhile, the Hawker Hurricane is the unsung hero of the Battle of Britain. This aircraft, born from the famous Hawker design stable, was the creation of the great Sidney Cam and was his response to the RAF's urgent requirement for a low-wing monoplane fighter to balance the threat from Nazi Germany and its rearmament during the mid-1930s.
I've heard pilots in the past say that the Hurricane was one of the hardest aircraft to fly. As we see it now, leading the Spitfire again past us, we get a wonderful view of the undercarriage of both aircraft as they sweep round and over towards a very large vessel out there, actually. I'm not sure if that's a wind farm
Fixer-upper?
Service vehicle, or it's a fixer-upper, but it's a massive boat right out there. And they're zooming now into the sky away from us. The Spitfire, Sam, one of the latter versions that we had. This one, the
yes,
Mark
the Mark 19. Yes, the Mark 19 Spitfire, and this particular version was used for photo reconnaissance. One of the last ever built.
The growth in Spitfire squadrons was just simply incredible. By the outbreak of war in 1939, 9 squadrons were equipped. In spite of vigorous demands from France, the Commander-in-Chief of Fighter Command refused to send any Spitfires to France during the German Blitzkrieg of 1940. The wisdom of that decision was clearly shown. By July 1940, RAF Fighter Command had 19 Spitfire Mark I squadrons available. Once the RAF modified their tactics to properly counter the Luftwaffe, the Spitfire Mark I proved to be the only British fighter capable of meeting the Messerschmitt on equal terms. Often the outcome of a combat depended more on the quality of the pilot than his aircraft. More Spitfires were built than any other British combat aircraft before or since World War II, a total of 20,341.
Now, this particular Spitfire, as we said, was the Mark 19, registration PM631. She currently resides with the Biggin Hill Heritage Hangar, and they restored her into the colour markings that she would have had at the first ever flight of the historic aircraft flight, the predecessor to BBMF, which took to the air on the 11th of July, 1957. As the aircraft fly past us on the seafront there, you'll see the beautiful blue colour scheme with the yellow propeller spinner. Flying the Spitfire this afternoon is Flight Lieutenant Andy Priest, MBE. He has over 4,000 hours on 13 aircraft types, notably the Tornado GR1, the Hawk and Harrier GR7. Later in his career, he was the tutor display pilot. He's been with the BBMF for 6 years.
Just listening to the blend of the two aircraft engines as they flew past our microphones here at the BBC Essex commentary point. I hope, even if you're listening maybe thousands of miles away from the county, you'll have heard that. And I guess you might have had the same goosebumps that I had. I'm lucky enough to be able to see them too.
And of course there's a double whammy, Ian, because we've got the Merlin engine in the Hurricane and the Griffin engine in the Spitfire, which was introduced into the latter editions of the Spitfire in the later part of the war. They were considered the more advanced, powerful engines, which helped in the success to ultimate victory.
2,050 horsepower engines. I mean, it was just incredible.
Now this Hurricane, PZ865, is 80 years old last month in July. It was the last model of Hawker Hurricane built from a total of over 14,500. She first flew on the 27th of July 1944 and wears the inscription, "The last of the many."
The aircraft are based at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire. The Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight operates several aircraft, tirelessly working to keep these beasts in the skies. We were hoping for the Lancaster bomber to come to see us in Clacton this year, but speaking to one of the team a little earlier, telling us that a radiator is needed. It's been laid up now for a few days. It'll take a few more to sort that radiator issue, but of course we hope to see him back in the skies very soon. I think there's just 2 airworthy Lancasters left in the world, so it's so important, isn't it, that we do all we can to keep flying. Lest we forget is the motto of the Battle of Britain.
And the other Lancaster's based out in Canada. Back in 2014 she made an appearance at the airshow season here in the UK. Now, talking of maintenance and upkeep, Ian, the Hurricane is undoubtedly one of the most complex of the wartime fighters to restore. It's got an intricate melange of steel, aluminium, wood and fabric, and it represents an enormous challenge to the maintenance engineers as well as the pilots to keep it in flying condition. When compared to the...
Flight Lieutenant Bob Dews was born in Carmarthen, South Wales, and started his flying career in the Royal Air Force in 1989, flying the Queen of the Skies, the VC-10 out of RAF Bryce Norton. He then became a search and rescue pilot on the Sea King. From the end of his half horizontal, Bob is now pushing negative 2G, leveling the aircraft upside down for an inverted pass. Hanging in his straps, trying to maintain control of the aircraft, this is not a comfortable position to be in. This is Bob's second year with the Tutor display. He's operating at a base height of 300 feet, except for the 2 final passes at just 100 feet above the sea. The next manoeuvres are the ballistic rolls, which Bob can use to gain energy for the next part of his sequence. Displaying the Tutor requires careful energy management due to its low power-to-weight ratio, just 170 horsepower for a whole aircraft to fly. When not displaying, Bob is a qualified flying instructor, or QFI, on 115 Squadron, based at RAF Wittering, where he trains frontline pilots into fellow Tutor instructors. During his very varied career, Bob has amassed over 8,000 flying hours on 15 different aircraft types. This represents almost a full year in the air. After this half Cuban, Bob is about to enter a 4-point roll. It's an excellent photo opportunity for you budding photographers. The Tutor has a top speed of 212 miles per hour or 185 knots and can achieve maximum positive 6G, meaning that the aircraft is subjected to forces 6 times that of gravity. Next off to the left, another wing over, a combined pitching and rolling manoeuvre used to turn the aircraft through 180 degrees. You'll notice that each wing over is slightly different as Bob carefully selects his flight path to cater for differing wing conditions and aircraft energy states. Bob now rolls 90 degrees while pointing straight up before completing a stall turn at almost 0 airspeed. The 2 90-degree turns allow him to continue in the same direction. The Tutor is operated by No. 6 Flying Training School in partnership with Babcock International, primarily flying University Air Squadron students and RAF Air Cadets. There are 13 air experience flights across the UK that offer flights up to 20,000 cadets each year. This could be you if you're between 13 and 20 years old. Up to 50 cadets a year are now being taught to fly the Tutor up to solo standard, flying it on their own. After this conventional stall turn, Bob will enter a slow roll.
Particularly vulnerable to the wind in the Tutor, Grob, the manufacturer, primarily makes gliders, and the Tutor, despite being powered, is built like a glider, making it very light, and therefore it's a particularly skillful display with a blustery wind like we have today. During the slow roll, you may have noticed the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund heart on the belly of this aircraft, seen since 2022 to celebrate this fantastic charity. We're proud to raise an awareness for the charity that does so much for RAF personnel, air cadets and veterans. I know we've had A-level results day recently, but those of you going to university, there are 15 university air squadrons across the UK. On the squadrons, students are taught to fly the Tutor by highly experienced military flying instructors like Bob. It is worth mentioning that the UAS syllabus is 80 hours long, completely free, and does include solo aerobatics. Members are not committed to a military career after graduation, although if that's something you decide to do, they will support you every step of the way. We're now in the high-energy section of the display with a quarter clover, derry turn, and now the loop, all quintessential aerobatic manoeuvres. Today, the Royal Air Force is recruiting for multiple rewarding and demanding professions with the continued development of our combat, utility and maritime patrol aircraft, as well as UK Space Command. Now recently joined at REAP by the introduction of our newest aircraft, E7 Wedgetail, and also remotely piloted capabilities with Protector. Down to just 100 feet over the sea. The high tempo of operations continues today with aircraft and personnel deployed around the world, operating with NATO and our other allies. Visit the RAF website to find out more about our professions, including, but not limited to, aircrew, air operations controllers, cyberspace specialists, medics and engineers, and many, many more. We're now in the final section of our display with an oblique loop and a half Cuban. The oblique loop puts the aircraft in plan form to the crowd for some excellent photo opportunities of that benevolent fund heart. I'd like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our supporters this season. They are the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund, Runway 25 and Babcock International, who provided much of the merchandise we're giving away in our stand this season. If you've managed to get some great photo shots of the Tutor, make sure to tag our social media, Instagram and Facebook. We'd be more than happy to repost your photos with your permission, of course. Bob's now bringing the Tutor around for his departing wave at just 100 feet. Yes, he will be able to see you waving. A big thank you to Clacton Airshow 2025 for hosting us today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the 2025 Royal Air Force Tutor.
And our special thanks to Flying Officer Sebastian Wilson from the Tutor display team. Will you thank Bob from all of us here at Clacton? That was epic.
I will do. He does love the display season. He's going to be missing it next year, but yeah, big fan of everything we do here. So he does enjoy Clacton. He did it last year, he did it this year. He loves the coastal shows.
Sen, smashing. Thanks for you as well. And to Bob, let's hear it for the Tutor display team. Strike Masters, all to come. But as you look to your right now, right on cue, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's welcome the Lynx AH-7 helicopter. Arriving from the right with a pass that gave us an excellent opportunity for a photo. We're going to see some incredible aerobatics with this aircraft, Sam, aren't we?
Absolutely. So flying for us this afternoon is Lynx pilot Clive Clark. He's spent 17 years in Army aviation as a pilot and helicopter instructor and almost 30 years for Her Majesty's Forces. He has over 6,000 flying hours, mostly on twin-turbine helicopters. He has experience of military flying, including counter-terrorism, airborne reconnaissance, casualty evacuation, pilot instruction, assessment, examination, and he's also flown VIPs in hostile environments such as the jungle and the desert. He now works for the National Police Air Service as a national training captain and spends his hobby in the summer flying at air shows as part of Project Lynx with the Westland Lynx helicopter.
Climbing into the sky, we're going to see several wingovers, and get your cameras ready because we're going to see a hover like no other. We're going to see a wonderful hover at 300 feet above the sea with a very slow 360-degree turn very soon. So cameras at the ready because this is something rather special. Here we go.
Now, as the Westland Lynx helicopter hovers in front of us, the centre of the display line, he's now flying sideways, pointing his rotor tail back towards the pier and pitching around towards the Jaywick end of the beach. You can see close up here from the seafront the 42-foot main rotor diameter as he dives down. The aircraft is 50 feet long and weighs over 10,000 pounds fully loaded. The engines are two Rolls-Royce GEM 41-to-1 turbo shafts with 1,120 horsepower each.
He's now flying backwards before spinning once again, so we see each side of the Lynx helicopter. And then again, turning to face the crowd, up to our right at the moment, sort of flying towards the Martello Tower. Again, a nice graceful turn, backwards a little bit more, so everybody on Clacton seafront is going to get a great view.
Now, of course, Ian, we see a lot of high-energy, high-speed aerobatics, but when you see slow flying, you might be forgiven for thinking it's easy. I can tell you from experience that slow flying is incredibly difficult because that accuracy is so important. Every wrong turn or manoeuvre is so obvious when you're flying slowly.
And doing the pirouettes as you go. Bit higher now in the skies. Oh, and a wonderful dip of the nose right in front of us on the commentary point.
Now, flying fairly low level for an air display today, but the service ceiling of the aircraft is 10,600 feet with a range of 322 miles.
What a journey this particular Lynx has been through. Project Lynx, based in Bury St Edmunds, have made it their aim to return Lynx helicopters to the sky so they can be remembered for the roles they've played in the British military in the past. They acquired this particular helicopter in 2019, and since then it's been based at North Weald under the care of Weald Aviation Limited, before a full refurbishment to airworthy condition. The 14th of February 2022, she returned to the skies.
Now, Ian, you missed that, but he was pitching the rotor tail downwards. Then he went complete 180 with the front of the aircraft pointing the other way, up and down like a seesaw. I hope that he's still got his breakfast on board.
Well, apparently curry and ice cream is the thing that you have before your aerobatics if you listen to the Firebirds.
I'm not sure I'm quite brave enough to try that.
We'll ask Clive later. must say well done to Graham, who is the man behind Project Lynx. He's actually purchased another Lynx since he did up this one. He's got a Mark 9 Alpha, a veteran of the Afghanistan campaign. It's in the process of being fully restored, so maybe we're going to see another one in the future.
It's lovely to see the preservation of this historic rotary aircraft brought to the civilian teams, and for airshow entertainment, it helps to preserve that heritage for future generations to learn about their active roles when they were deployed with the military.
Thank you so much for waving as Clyde dipped his nose, bowing to the crowd before that rapid descent off over the pier and into the distance along the Tendring coastline. What about that, Clacton? Let's hear it for the Lynx helicopter LH7 from Project Lynx.
Enjoyed Sweet Caroline earlier. Now we turn to something very different from the Lynx helicopter. We have not one, not two, not 3, 4, 5, but 6 aircraft in the skies. Come on, Clacton, let's hear it. Welcome, Team Raven.
Flying RV-8 aircraft for you this afternoon, powered by 180 horsepower engines. These aircraft had an excellent power-to-weight ratio, which combined with an efficient airframe, give this aircraft the performance and fighter-like handling to make it perfect for formation flying. The RVs are nicknamed hot rods in the sky. Hold on to your hats, this is likely to be an entertaining routine. Approaching the crowd in a Vic V formation with 5 aircraft in the V and the 6th aircraft flying behind. You've got 6 very capable pilots flying for this afternoon, led by Raven 1, Simon Sid Shirley. He's been the team leader since the very beginning, and he is known as one of the best display leaders in the world. Most military national teams would crawl over broken glass to get his experience and ability, according to Raven pilot Pete Wells. He's been in the Air Force all his professional life, flying fighters such as Tornadoes and training pilots on Hawks and Tutors. Rumour has it that he's been flying fighters prior to having a driving licence, as he joined so young. In his spare time, he used to train civilians at the formation school at North Weald, where Team Raven originated. All of the civilians on the team owe Sid a huge amount, and I think it's safe to say that when Sid is leading you, you're in very good hands, because the team would follow him just about anywhere. And Team Raven do like to go all over the place. They display in the UK and abroad. They have display bookings in Spain as well, and in fact in a couple of weeks' time they're flying down to Malaga for a week-long visit, and they're going to be taking their significant others with them, who will be flying on airlines to join them on the sunny Spanish coast. Centre of the crowd line now, we've got a duo pair of Ravens flying towards us directly in the middle of the seafront and pitching up one following the other. The smoke is trailing, flying very close formation as they roll over the top in beautiful synchronized harmony. Now that's Sid in Raven 1, and flying behind him is Raven 2, Patrick Wilson. He is the youngest and newest member of the team, joined at the beginning of this season. He's yet to realise how difficult it is as he's a natural formation pilot and extremely likeable. He's also a commercial airline pilot and has maybe flown you on your holidays. Passing us in the centre of the beach, we've got 3 aircraft leading, with the 4th aircraft trailing around the smoke trail behind. And in position 3 is Pete Wells. He's the engineer for the team. He's been flying with the team since 2022. He has over 6,000 flying hours, mostly on tail dragger aircraft, and claims to have done more than 1,000 air displays, which is one of the most air displays than any air display pilot on the circuit. In position 4, we have Gerald Williams. Now, Gerald used to be super famous as a Welsh rugby player. He likes to organise the displays and is the main contact for show organisers. He's got an amazing sense of humour, but he's a great pair of hands behind the cockpit of the RV-8. Despite never being in the military, he's trained largely with military pilots and has huge amounts of discipline and skill.
Yeah, good old Gerald likes to do all the organising. We all need a Gerald, don't we, to get us sorted. Raven 5, and you can see a wonderful shot as they come straight towards us now on the commentary point with their lights on and their smoke trailing. Raven 5 this year is Russ Eastwell, an ex-Sea Harrier display pilot. As he likes to tell the team every weekend, he drops it into conversation. Well, you would, wouldn't you? He also displayed some of the Royal Navy's historical aircraft, including the Sea Hawk, then went on to display Rolls-Royce Spitfire. With an impressive military career in the Navy, when people ask if they're all ex-fast jet pilots, Sid always says Russ used to fly slow jet Harriers. So still some inter-service rivalry. Well, of course there would be. Russ joined the team over 3 years ago in 2022, the same year as Pete. That was a great pass from a pair of the Ravens right in front of us. 2 now heading out quite a distance apart into the skies, up over the wind farm. We still have that formation of 4 just to our left. We're keeping an eye on them as well. But 2 big loops from the 2 directly in front of us.
So that's Raven 5 and Raven 6 flying in an opposition routine there. Raven 6 is Mark Southern, but his nickname is Bradford Pitt because, yes, he comes from Bradford. He's an ex-Tornado bomber pilot, and he's a tireless worker doing all of the admin paperwork jobs on the team that no one else likes to do. The team like to nickname him Captain Slow, not because he's a slow flyer, but he's a little bit rubbish on the clock watching and is always last to join the crew bus. He's a great team player, great sense of humour, and I think we can sense there's real camaraderie between the Ravens.
Ravens 5 and 6 now flying from right to left, coming right in front of us. A lovely shot. Banking up into the sky, the smoke is trailing. The smoke getting a little lost in the clouds, the darker grey patchy cloud now that's just drifted in front of us. There's still plenty of blue around, but quite a lot of heavy cloud, making quite a nice backdrop actually to the display.
And crowd centre, we've got a 4-ship formation coming directly towards us. The smoke's been switched on. You can see the light of the lead aircraft with Sid flying up front there, as they go from a 4-ship formation to a crossover and a split.
Beautiful, in 4 different directions. 2 to the left, 2 to the right. I think the guys are having a good time today, as always.
And rejoining the centre line, we've got Ravens 5 and 6 pulling up, smoke trailing, and straight over the top. And pitching out towards the Jaywick end of the beach. Now you can hear as they pull up the roar of that 180 horsepower engine. It's got great capabilities, and because the aircraft has a fantastic power-to-weight ratio, it really is like a hot rod in the sky.
I must ask, next time we speak to one of the guys or the Firebirds, the people that fly these self-build aircraft, I must ask how long it takes to put it together, because, you know, I've had flat-pack furniture before that's taken days, and I just wonder how long it takes to build your own aircraft.
It's a very good question. We know that Rich Goodwin spent 4 years building and modifying his jet pits.
Oh, that's nice, those three members of Team Raven.
In fact, the RV aircraft are one of the most popular self-build aircraft in the world, if not the most popular.
The precision of that manoeuvre as they just looped round, now going back up into the sky with the three trails of smoke, one from each aircraft. You can see that the aircraft are exactly the correct distance away from each other, because the smoke wouldn't lie, and we can see the route that the aircraft are taking, and it looks absolutely pinpoint accuracy, doesn't it?
And that pinpoint accuracy comes from lots and lots of practice, not just in the air, but also on the ground. You may have seen on the social media, some of the pilots have been sharing videos of them doing walkthroughs on the ground.
Now, two of our Ravens have split away with their smoke on, and they are in the sky, drawing a great big heart. And just before the two meet at the bottom of the heart, to complete the heart, we have a third Raven piercing it like an arrow through the centre of the heart, with the smoke just making it look like it's gone right through the centre of the heart. That was special. Was that for me or you?
I think that's the love of Clacton. The pilots tell me that they only perform at shows that they like, they only return to shows they like, and the fact they've been returning to Clacton year on year, I think this is their fourth or fifth appearance here at Clacton over the last few years, they really do love it here.
So that heart was for all of us.
And then we've got a fan break with three aircraft doing what looks like derry turns in front of the centre of the beach, looping circles in the sky with their smoke trailing. It was a little bit cooler this afternoon, but on very hot days the pilots have to pay lots of attention to the engine performance and power. They can get overheated in the hot weather, so what they do is they make sure they only start the aircraft up at the last minute. They don't sit there with the engines running too long. They keep an eye on that to make sure that they don't overheat. And there they go, flying away into the distance over Clacton Pier, the Team Raven making their way over to Addison.
One more chance as they line up in formation. Isn't that lovely how we saw them gathering together in the skies, and then coming perfectly together in one line as they soar above us. The smoke goes on. How about that, Clacton? Let's hear it for Team Raven. One by one, peeling away and into the distance in front of us. So fascinating to see how all six just came together in the skies to our left, turned and then flew in such close formation.
Yes, that fan break is one of their new manoeuvres they introduced a few years ago. I was chatting to Sid the other evening and he was saying it's a firm favourite of theirs. It's very effective in the sky with that smoke trailing behind.
And again, how interesting to watch how the six aircraft were all separate, and then within seconds, look how they've come together in a cluster, almost like a swarm of bees, you know, six together now, so tight you can barely from the distance see any distance between them.
They can't bear to be apart from one another. Now, the Ravens absolutely love it here at Clacton, as we were saying. I was chatting to Pete Wells about it, and he was saying what he loves about it here is you take off from Clacton Aero Club, you turn left, and within 35 seconds from takeoff, you're already running in for your display. He said Clacton is the most brilliant amphitheatre. He loves the curve of the coastline with a pier at the far end. He can see the audience down on the beach, and he absolutely loves it that when they land, they can walk along the seafront and have an ice lolly.
I'm like a bird. We've got Team Raven performing, and the Seagulls just came really close to the commentary point there, and I think you'd have picked them up on our microphones. And all six now slightly separated. They've been past us once again on the commentary point. Well, now a Seagull has landed on one of the bits of kit right there. He's a big old thing, isn't he? Probably thinking, what is going on with our skies today? You know, what is all this noise?
I think they're in the search for some chips as well.
Yeah. Keep your chips closely guarded if you're enjoying some of the seafront and your ice creams.
So the Ravens won't get an ice cream this afternoon because they're flying back to Earl's to refuel.
Very special coming along now. Piloted by Andrew Davis, nicknamed Mum. Chief pilot, a volunteer pilot. Andrew is flying for us today the Fairy Swordfish. Now, this is an aircraft that dates back many, many, many years. And I'd like to mention somebody who was involved with the Fairy Swordfish. His name was Squadron Leader Lionel Welsh. He flew from HMS Victorious as part of the flight that spotted the Bismarck, which we're going to talk about. One of the main roles the Swordfish had, that history of spotting the Bismarck and attacking it. He never talked about his role in the Swordfish, but after my mother died, says Heather, I found his war record and loads of photos. So let's mention Heather, who lives and works in Clacton, and her dad, the late Squadron Leader Lionel Welsh, who was one of the pilots of this, the Fairy Swordfish, as it comes directly into us, banking up and dipping down the right wing, so we see the beautiful underbelly of this very old biplane. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about it and its illustrious past over many, many decades.
W5856 is the oldest surviving airworthy Fairy Swordfish in the world. She first flew on Trafalgar Day on the 21st of October 1941 and was a blackfish built by Blackburn Aircraft at Sherburn in Elmet and delivered to 82 Squadron on the 20th of October 1941 for overseas transport to Gibraltar. She served with the Royal Navy's Mediterranean Fleet for a year. Little is known about her service in the Mediterranean, but it's likely she was based on the North Front in Gibraltar, carrying out patrols over the Straits. She was then returned to Ferry Stockport Factory for refurbishment during the winter of 1942 to 43.
The wonderful sound of that Bristol Pegasus engine we're getting from our microphones on BBC Essex. Passing this time, again showing us the underbelly from right to left. Very distinctive markings, which we will tell you about as well. And hi to Jonathan Hearn, who came all the way from Australia last year to see this plane. He came to see us at the Clacton Airshow. He's listening at home, down under. His father flew in these amazing aircraft.
It was such a privilege, Ian, wasn't it, to look at his father's logbook and see the training flights and the missions that he took part in. Now, this aircraft was used for advanced flying training. She was transferred to the Royal Canadian Navy in 1944, again for more training roles until the end of the war. She was disposed of and passed through several hands on civilian operators, one being a farmer who thought that her plans were to turn her into a crop sprayer, but she was quickly purchased by Sir William Roberts, who brought her over to Scotland to join his Strathallan collection, and then she arrived in crates in August 1977, but in a badly corroded condition. Then in 1990, the aircraft was bought by British Aerospace and completely restored to flying condition. Her first successful test flight was in May 1993, when she was gifted to the Royal Navy Historic Flight, and 3 years later was adopted by the City of Leeds in tribute to the local companies that built the Swordfish components during World War II. She now wears the city's coat of arms and the name on her port side just forward of the pilot's cockpit. In 2003, she was grounded due to corrosion on her wing spars, and her future really looked uncertain. But with the great generosity of BAE Systems, they stepped in and constructed a brand new set of wings, which were delivered in 2012. She was then finally restored to full flying condition and saved for the nation by a huge grant from the Peter Harrison Heritage Foundation. The aircraft rejoined the display circuit 10 years ago in 2015, and she carries a new paint scheme which depicts the Swordfish of 820 Naval Air Squadron during the attack of the Bismarck in 1941.
Yes, the paint job really is quite striking. It's a real black and white stripe across each top and bottom wing, and also at the tail. From May 2024, this Fairy Swordfish got that freshly painted D-Day invasion stripes colour. And we talked about the role that the Swordfish played, a crucial role in protecting convoys from U-boats attacks in the Battle of the Atlantic. Also sinking the Italian fleet at Taranto, and of course crippling the mighty Bismarck. But Taranto is a battle that really stands out from the 11th and 12th of November in 1940. There was a battle between British naval forces under Admiral Andrew Cunningham and Italian naval forces. The Royal Navy launched the first all-aircraft ship-to-ship naval attack in history, employing 21 of these Fairy Swordfish biplanes, the torpedo bombers, from the aircraft carrier HMS Illustrious in the Mediterranean Sea. The attack struck the battle fleet of the Regia Marina at anchor in the harbour of Taranto, using aerial torpedoes despite the shallowness of the water. And according to Admiral Cunningham, Taranto and the night of the 11th to the 12th of November 1940 should be remembered forever as having shown once and for all that in the Fleet Air Arm, the Navy has its most devastating weapon.
The Swordfish has a stately 90 knots cruise when lightly laden, and 82 knots when there's a tweak torpedo underslung. It has a very reliable engine. Now, the crew on board those missions were really not afforded too much comfort. There was no heater on board, it's open cockpit, and all you've got is fabric covering on the seats. They had really no shelter from the cold in the winter. It would have been particularly cold on those Arctic missions. A little wing waggle on the front there. We can see just how highly manoeuvrable the Blackfish is. Despite her lack of speed, there was very few criticisms of the aircraft other than could she perhaps go a little bit faster, but ultimately reliable. And sometimes that slow speed was actually to her advantage, as the enemy guns often found it difficult to offset their sighting on such a slow target.
What a beautiful little wing waggle as the Fairy Swordfish and Andrew Davis, mum to his friends, made its pass from left to right, just dipping one wing, then the other, one wing, then the other, in a very graceful manoeuvre. If you're in that barge over there, that Thames sailing barge, you'd have had a fantastic view from the other side.
So for our businesses, a fantastic display, and also draw people in, spending money, making our businesses successful, and actually seeing people enjoy themselves.
So a happy boss at the moment?
Very happy, smiling, and I'm smiling because I'm seeing so many smiling faces here today.
Ian Davidson, Chief Executive of Tendring District Council, thank you for that. And as you'll have heard in the background, as we were chatting to Ian, we have our second Spitfire of the day, Mark Disco Discum, at the controls of this Mark 19 photo reconnaissance Spitfire from the Rolls-Royce Historic Air Fleet.
The Supermarine Spitfire was produced in greater numbers than any other British combat aircraft before or since World War II. 20,341 Spitfires were built in 22 different variants, and the aircraft remained in production for 12 years. The prototype's maiden flight took place on the 5th of March 1936, and Mark I Spitfires entered RAF service in August 1938. The development potential of the original design allowed the Spitfire to establish and maintain air superiority of the vital defence of Britain and to keep pace with the improvements in performance of enemy fighters throughout World War II. Spitfires fought in every operational theatre of the war and remained in RAF frontline service up to 1954. At the end of its development, the Spitfire carried an engine producing more than twice the power of the original. Maximum takeoff weight and rate of climb had been more than doubled. Its firepower had increased by a factor of 5, and its maximum speed had been increased by a third. Of course, this is a Mark 19 Spitfire, one of the last types built during World War II, powered by the Griffin engine.
And didn't we just hear that power, 2,050 horsepower Griffin engine? Absolutely wonderful. Now just high in the sky to our left. We're about to swoop much lower over to the sea, aiming at that orange marker buoy in front of us. Tipping the left wing down, we see the underbelly of this wonderful blue Spitfire, that kind of beautiful RAF blue that is just so evocative.
The first Supermarine Spitfire PR Mark 19 was completed in October 1944, powered by a Rolls-Royce Griffin 66. A direct descendant of both the Buzzard engine and the R-type racing power plant, it included its design roots as a tight blower for cabin pressurization. The engine is a 2,050 horsepower liquid-cooled V12 with 2-speed, 2-stage supercharger. Capable of flying up to 445 miles per hour at a flight ceiling of 26,000 feet and a range of 1,800 miles.
Now, this particular aircraft was used to train Lightning pilots to fight Mustangs, has spent time over the years with the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, and it also features in the 1969 film Battle of Britain, where it was painted with the temporary markings to represent different squadrons during the filming. It's now back in that RAF blue, as I mentioned, representing its time as a photographic reconnaissance aircraft. The Rolls-Royce Heritage Flight acquired her in 1995, one of the final 3 Spitfires to be retired from the RAF. And they absolutely bring to displays like this around the UK during the summer season.
Rolls-Royce see this aeroplane as a dynamic and exciting ambassador, not just for the company, but also to inspire the younger generation and hopefully encourage them to choose science or engineering-based careers.
Oh, that's better as the cloud clears slightly. A little bit of sun comes through just to warm us up a little. It's gone a little chilly, I'll be honest, on the seafront, but the warmth of the sun soon breaking out and starting to glint on that blue colour scheme of the elliptical wing of the Spitfire, coming straight towards us now on the seafront before heading up into the sky, banking round to her right, our left.
Now, PR Mark 19, this particular Spitfire was the final photo reconnaissance variant of the Supermarine Spitfire, and her very last operational sortie by an RAF Spitfire was on the 1st of April 1954, when the Mark 19 flew a photographic mission during the Malaya campaign over the jungles of Johor. The Mark 19 was also the last RAF serving Spitfire type, the last being a Mark 19 temperature and humidity flight at RAF Woodvale, not being struck off until June 1957. She bears her original wartime colour scheme of PRU blue, an original RAF serial of PS853, although it's also known by its national registration of GRRGN. Rolls-Royce bought her in 1996 as a highly recognisable example of British engineering excellence. She remains as popular today as she was just after the war, and represents the pinnacle of Spitfire development, with the highest service ceiling.
From sailing boat Mirror. Grandad and Ethan are watching out to sea. So there we are, a couple linked by the radio. And what a treat. Now, we weren't going to promise you red, white and blue smoke because we weren't sure it was going to happen, but by goodness it has. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of Clacton, let's welcome the Firebirds. Red smoke from the tips of one wing, blue smoke from the other, and white from the rear of the aircraft. Both of them trailing red, white and blue as they fly from right to left now.
Flying the RV4 aircraft, which is often nicknamed the hot rod of the sky. The RV aircraft are perhaps the most popular self-built aircraft in the world. Originally designed in America, these have been highly modified for aerobatic routines. We're having a little boogie here on the commentary point here with the fantastic music accompanying this aerobatic display from the Firebirds. These aircraft weigh as little as a third of a VW Golf car, around 500 kilograms, but they are powered by a mighty 5.3-litre, 160 horsepower engine, giving it the performance of a hot rod. Normal cruising speeds around 160 miles per hour, but these pilots don't do normal.
No, they don't do normal.
So during the display, you can see them travelling as high as either 0 miles per hour or 200 miles per hour as they make the most of the entire flight envelope.
Wow, close formation from Nigel and John as they now fly from left to right, banking up into the sky, splitting off, fanning out, and heading in either direction. Now, what I love about the fact that, as we've said before, when the smoke trails out of the aircraft, you can see the precision of the flying because it marks the track of the aircraft. Both done a loop in the sky, now one is chasing the other. The sun is glinting off their white bodies. The livery is all white on these Firebird aircraft.
A lovely little wing over to the left there as they fly in absolute close formation aerobatics. The pilots are highly practiced and trained at aerobatic flying. They practice their routine not just in the air but also walking it through on the ground. And in fact, yesterday they told me about the routine using spoons at the breakfast table.
You should have videoed that. That would have been something to see, I think.
Now, one of the things the pilots also do before breakfast is they go running, because peak physical fitness is super important for display pilots. During the routine, they will be pulling up to 6G. The human body is really only designed to sustain 1G at any time. Pulling 6G is the equivalent of a cow sitting on your chest.
The lights on the tips of each wing piercing through the clouds at that point as they head one to the left, one to the right, up into the sky now.
Now they're performing what you call opposition manoeuvres now. We've got one aircraft far apart from the other, but they are still in absolute synchronization. So a derry turn and then flying towards one another on the straight and level, directly in front of the crowd line as they pull up with the smoke trailing into a heart.
They did a heart from the bottom up rather than the top down. Very nice.
They like to keep us on our toes. Now, of course, when the pilots reach the top of the heart and they just tip over the top, that's when they start to pull negative G, and they will pull up to -3 negative G while performing this routine. Now, I can tell you that G-force in the negative is extremely uncomfortable, and that's where the peak physical fitness really comes into play. The pilots will be grunting and clenching their muscles as they perform the routine.
Clenching and grunting, I can imagine them now as the two now flying. Almost looks like they're going to cross over right in front of us. One was coming from the left, one was coming from the right. They did that wonderful close pass.
And I love it, Ian, as they pull up to the vertical and then they twirl as they go.
Very graceful. Now, I know Nigel has been quoted as saying, I've been lucky enough to do a mix of flying, military and civil stuff, big aeroplanes and little aeroplanes, but this is really a lot of fun. And John, my number 2, does a lot of Spitfire and Mustang flying, but he says what we do in the RV4 is some of the best flying there is. And who can argue with that when we see what they're able to do with these two aircraft, very light aircraft.
Now, as we saw last night, they do the evening pyrotechnic routine, and they've got the colour, wingtip colours that were coming red, white and blue out of the aircraft wingtips this afternoon. And they said to me, this is an exclusive to Clacton Airshow, the first time they've done that in a daytime routine. They are now available to do gender reveals. So if you fancy having a gender reveal with a bit of something different in the sky, get in touch with the Firebirds. Now, pilot number 2 is John Doddy, who grew up in Scotland. In his schoolboy years, he was into model aircraft and he joined the Air Training Corps. He went on to Dundee University and studied electrical engineering before learning to fly in Cessna 152s at Dundee Flying Club. He then went on for a career as a research scientist with the Ministry of Defence Royal Aircraft Establishment at Farnborough. He then took on to flying chipmunks, tiger moths and tipsy nippers, and then had the opportunity to fly the RAF's Douglas DC-3. He then spent some time flying the British Military Parachute Centre in West Germany before taking a commercial job flying for Scottish Fisheries Protection Agency before eventually going to the airlines to fly Boeing aircraft. When he's not flying airliners, John likes to pursue his passion for flying old aircraft. DC-3s, Firebirds, Spitfires, Hurricanes, Mustangs, Sea Furies, he's flown them all. And he's never happier when he's in the air. Crowd centre pitching up, the smoke is going on and they're flying in opposite directions. Are they going to give us another heart?
Oh, that's a big heart. You can see how the breeze has picked up because the smoke marking out that heart is moving quite quickly now towards Clacton Pier. Slower pass with the right down, a wonderful view of the underbelly of this P-51 Mustang known as Jersey Jerk. And a wonderful sound of that Packard Merlin engine as it soars into the sky over the end of Clacton Pier. Not looking in bad shape, Sam, for an aircraft manufactured in 1947.
Yes, she was manufactured in Melbourne, Australia. Now, of course, most of the Mustangs are actually produced for the US Air Force, of course, but a lot of them were produced in California, but this one was built in Australia. And the reason I think she's in such good condition is she spent many years of her life, many decades, actually sat in storage. Although she was delivered in 1948, she sat in store until 1957. Decades later, she reappeared as a restoration project via Fort Lauderdale in Florida, shipped back to Australia to Queensland in May 1995. It was then in her first flight after a restoration in 2002, where she was configured with dual controls for the passenger seat. And then 2 decades later, she was eventually sold in 2020 and acquired by Ultimate Warbirds, who now own her and operate out of Sywell in Northamptonshire. They repainted her in the stunning colours of the P-51D Mustang Jersey Jerk, a personal mount of Major Donald Strait of the 361st Fighter Squadron, 356th Fighter Group. On the 5th of May 2024, she took her maiden flight as a rebuilt, restored aircraft.
So this aircraft honours Donald J. Strait, the top ace of the US 8th Air Force who flew from Martlesham Heath in Suffolk in World War II. In 122 missions, he achieved 13.5 aerial victories, including 3 in a single mission in 1945. The P-51 that Major Strait was best known for was his Jersey Jerk. In 1944, he became the CEO of the 361st Flying School. He was decorated 9 times, and the final honour was induction into the New Jersey Aviation Hall of Fame.
Now, yesterday evening we were honoured with an appearance of another Mustang, the Moonbeam McSquire, the P-51D. And talking to the pilot, Alistair Stegg-Williams, I asked him, why is it so special to fly a Mustang? What do you love about it? And he said, well, put it this way, if I had a choice, I would have flown a Mustang as a fighter aircraft and flown a Spitfire for leisure. He said it's an absolute honour and a privilege to fly such a wonderful and capable aircraft. The P-51 Mustang was the most versatile aircraft, capable of escorting bombers on their long-range missions, engaging in dogfights and dropping down to destroy the German targets on the ground. She's an American long-range single-seat fighter and fighter bomber. She's also been used not just for World War II, but the Korean War and other conflicts. Although she was an American aircraft, she spent a lot of time flying out of Britain during World War II, supporting Britain and the Allied troops on those bomber escort missions. Her full potential was developed when the USA realised that the aircraft had really been ignored for far too long, and they forged the American airframe, but with the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, which would be unmatched by any other piston aircraft of World War II.
Now, this year's Mustang display carries a poignant local connection due to the 80th anniversary of the loss of a P-51D off the coast of Clacton during the Second World War. Yes, not far from where we stand today in Clacton on January the 13th, 1945. A Mustang known as Little Zippy ditched into the North Sea, tragically claiming the life of Flying Officer Raymond E. King. It was decades later that the aircraft was recovered and now forms a centrepiece of the East Essex Aviation Museum, which is just around the coast from here in Point Clear, St Osyth. And there's an extract from the words which accompany. Albert Scott with memories of 1945, and what a poignant display, Sam, that was.
It was a wonderful Mustang display from Dave Pulliston from the Ultimate Fighters. And now, picking up the pace, we have a flash to the Cold War jet era with the Strike Master pair and the Vampire.
And we've got the Strike Master pair today. We just had one Strike Master, PAC Strike Master, yesterday, but today we have both of them, the Strike Master pair and the Vampire.
Flying the FB-52 Vampire this afternoon, Kenneth R. Wiesler from the Norwegian Historic Squadron. Flying the Strike Master pair, we have Sean Chidinchand, MBE, and Ian Bertie Brett. The Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron is a passion project of Ken Arvisler. He brought this project about to preserve the ex-military historical aircraft in airworthy condition and deliver these unique historic aircraft to the public at air shows all around Europe.
Now the clouds really have cleared. We have much more blue sky and a beautiful shot as the Vampire was followed by each of the Strike Masters, sort of following each other one after the other as they went high into the sky. So clear to see the difference in the shape of these aircraft. The Vampire with the twin tail, the Strike Masters. Now, as we look out over the pier to the left, once again flanking either side of the Vampire as they form that V with the Vampire at the front. Banking round. If you're up towards the Holland-on-Sea end of Clacton seafront, you'll get a wonderful view from those new beaches all along from the pier up towards Holland. Flying along now, coming over the pier. 3 abreast. A wonderful sight and a great opportunity for your camera as the smoke goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vampire and the Strike Master pair.
Now, during the display, you'll see the jet aircraft go from silently skulking to full thrust and power, just showing their complete capabilities for their efforts during the Cold War. The de Havilland Vampire was evolved from the DH-100 Vampire as a British jet fighter commissioned by the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. She followed the Gloucester Meteor as the second jet fighter to enter service with the RAF, but she arrived too late to see combat during World War II. The Vampire served on the front line with RAF squadrons from 1953 until her use as a trainer until 1966. The Strike Master is the BAC-167 Strike Master, a British jet-powered training and light attack aircraft. She was a development of the Hunting Jet Provost trainer, itself a jet engine version of the Percival Provost, which originally flew in 1950 with a radial piston engine.
Smoke trailing from each of the Strike Masters, and that gorgeous sound of the 3 aircraft as they flew from the pier end past us on the commentary point, and now going out over the water, over that barge again, Thames sailing barge. The sun really shining and glinting on the wings of each of the 3 aircraft there. We will get to see each of them in turn. Well, we'll certainly see the Vampire on her own and the Strike Master pair on their own shortly. But let's just, for a moment, soak up the beauty of the 3 of them together in this formation. Coming now over the Gunfleet Sands wind farm, as if they're coming directly towards us on the prom here in Clacton at the Greensward. Again, the smoke goes on the Strike Masters. They peel off one by one, leaving the Vampire on her own temporarily, banking higher than the Strike Masters, banking to the right over the pier. As I say, each Strike Master, one going left, one going right. So the 3 aircraft are now parted and preparing for their individual performances.
Dusk for this show, and the Strike Masters based at Hollywood. It's an Essex-based display team. brainchild behind the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron, and we're in capable hands with Kenneth. He's been flying since he was 15 years old, and he's accumulated over 15,000 hours of flying in his career. First up in the military from the 80s, and then onto the airlines, flying for Scandinavian Airlines and Boeing aircraft. He trained as a forward air controller, directing and guiding aircraft to find ground targets in the military, and then in Scandinavian Airlines he was promoted to captain on the Boeing 737s, 456, 7 and 800 aircraft up until the late 1990s. He founded the Norwegian Air Force Historical Squadron and has a huge passion for historical aircraft and classic jets. He's been displaying and flying the de Havilland Vampire since 2007. He's accumulated around 250 hours on the type and is actively involved in the maintenance of those aircraft. He's always had a passion for aerobatics and used to fly his Yak 52 before he moved on to the Vampire. The Strike Master pilots today are Sean Chitton, MBE, who joined the RAF from school in the late 80s. He gained his wings on the Hawk and qualified as an instructor on the Jet Provost. He then was selected to join the Red Arrows and the final year as leader of the Synchro pair. He later also went on to the airlines, flying Boeings and Airbus aircraft.
So the Strike Masters are back with us. In close formation, flying nicely along the seafront, banking up over to Clacton-on-Sea and past the pier. To my left as we look out to sea. We've also got Ian Bertie Brett, haven't we, who has flown the Strike Master for 4 or 5 years. Second year displaying, 13 years as a display pilot, and a Tornado GR4 pilot, then an instructor with RAF Marham. Whilst in the RAF in 2014, RAF tutor manager, display manager, got Bertie the Bug for the airshow world, and around the time he started flying the Hawker Hunter mid-air squadron. Once you get the bug, you've got the bug, haven't you?
And Bertie's a familiar face here at Clacton because he used to fly with Team Raven. He was flying at Clacton with the Ravens before joining the Strike Master team. He said the Strike Master is a lot of fun to fly. It's very simple and straightforward with very basic classic instrumentation with big round dials versus the advanced TV screens that he sees on the airline aircraft he flies like the Boeing. He said it's fast, it's nice, it's a graceful aircraft with aerobatic manoeuvres. And of course he loves displaying here at Clacton. He says it's a shame not to be able to land here in a jet as he did when he was on Team Raven, but it's always nice to be on the ground and see the public. He said it's a great show, the sun is always shining at Clacton, and he just enjoys flying on the East Coast, which he said as a pilot gives him a different perspective, and for you as a crowd, the photographs look slightly different as the sun is in a different position.
It's not called the Sunshine Coast for nothing, you know, here in Tendring. And we've got plenty of it at the moment as the two beautifully sail up into the sky, turning to show us each side of the aircraft, up and down, top and bottom.
Now, this Strike Master has an engine that produces 3,500 pounds of thrust, a pure turbojet, which creates a noticeable noise impact, as we just heard there. This display routine is designed to show the jet's manoeuvrability, and its high performance as a straight-wing aircraft. You'll see slow manoeuvres, closely followed by large vertical manoeuvres. And during the display, the pilots will sustain up to 4G.
Yes, we're getting a turbojet masterclass in manoeuvrability here at Clacton. It's funny, isn't it? It's difficult to sometimes imagine how large the aircraft is when it's in the skies above us. We're looking at a length here of 33 feet, 8.5 inches, so just over 10 meters. The wingspan is 36 feet, 10 inches, 11.2 meters, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the size of the aircraft that we're looking at the moment.
Maximum speed of 481 miles per hour, up to 18,000 feet. And a top speed at 518 miles per hour. That's the never exceed speed limit.
Wow, that'd get you places quickly, wouldn't it?
I wonder how long it takes them from North Weald to come here.
About 3 minutes at that speed.
Now, Bertie has been doing some instructional flying at North Weald, and he enjoys flying over the Essex landscape. It's beautiful to fly over. He's been teaching and examining everything from ab initio first-time pilots and Cessna Pipers up to jet training.
I don't know if it's Bertie's, I saw on a local Facebook group in Liverpool, which isn't that many miles away from Clacton. Chatter the other week about an aircraft that goes over at about 1 o'clock every day, and someone said, it might not be true, but someone said on the Facebook group, that's a Strike Master. And then someone else said, yeah, it's on its way to North Weald every day. So I don't know where Bertie lives, if he's coming home for lunch or something. But we often see the Strike Master over the Essex countryside. It gets discussed on various community Facebook groups. They're coming either direction now. Oh, and a wonderfully close pass. They just tilted their wings and crossed in front of us here on the beach before soaring out over the wind farm to once again cross over in front of us. Again, both smoke is trailing.
During the routine, the high speeds will reach up to 400 knots. Lots of crossover passes. Strike Master is essentially an armed version of the Jet Proverse Mark V. The Strike Master was modified with an uprated engine, wing hard points capable of carrying 4 500-pound Mark 82 bombs, 2 machine guns, new communication and navigation gear, a different electrical system, and a revised fuel system, including fuel tanks on the wingtips.
Which we can see when we look closely like that. We get such a good view. Over the pier now, high into the sky, one after the other. This is a massive loop.
I love it when they push up to the vertical and you can feel that roar in your chest as they accelerate. The Strike Master was built by the British Aircraft Corporation at Warton in Lancashire. She was actually never operated by the RAF, but used extensively by air forces as diverse as Ecuador, Oman and New Zealand. Now, one of these aircraft is an ex-Oman Air Force aircraft, operated successfully as a light ground attack role for notable historical events, including the Dauphin War and the famous Battle of Mirbat in 1972. The Strike Master played a crucial role in that battle and proved to be an extremely capable aircraft.
Coming straight for us from the North Sea and up into the skies above. I thought they were going to do their own version of a heart then, with the smokers trailing as they turned up in the vertical, one left, one right, but the smoker's now gone off and they've peeled off in either direction. There's a passenger airline flight right high above us. I'm just wondering if people on board that look down. I wonder what all those people are doing, looking out on Clacton-on-Sea front.
Now, of course, there's plenty of separation because we've got our strict rules that the aircraft pilots have to abide by, and they have up to 3,000 feet to fly their routines. And I'm just checking my notes, Ian, and when I interviewed Bertie last year, he said it took 12 minutes to transit from North Weald, just enough time to warm up, do a little bit of G and get themselves and the aircraft ready for the display.
And as the strike masters disappear left and right, you might have heard at the roar of the Vampire. The Vampire is back. This aircraft with the double tail, very distinctive shape, showing the Martello Tower end of the seafront belly. She's now flying along towards the pier.
So as we said earlier, the Vampire was really a replacement after the Gloucester Meteor, served with RAF squadrons between 1953 and used as a trainer up to 1966. She served with many air forces worldwide, setting aviation firsts and records, and was the first RAF fighter to exceed a top speed over 500 miles per hour. One of those records was the first carrier landing and takeoff of a jet aircraft performed by test pilot Eric Winkle-Brown in 1945, when he landed and took off from HMS Ocean. On the 8th of June 1946, the Vampire was introduced to the British public when Fighter Command's 247 Squadron was given the honour of leading the flypast over London at the Victory Day celebrations.
Another record on July the 14th, 1948. 6 Vampire of number 54 Squadron RAF became the first jet aircraft to fly across the Atlantic Ocean when they arrived in Goose Bay in Labrador. They went via Stornoway in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, Iceland, Greenland. From Goose Bay Airfield they went on to Montreal to start the RAF's annual Goodwill Tour of Canada and the US, where they gave formation aerobatic displays. Lots of records set by these aircraft.
Almost 3,300 Vampires were built, a quarter of them under licence in other countries. And the Vampire design was also developed into the de Havilland Venom fighter bomber, as well as the Naval Sea Vampire variants. Now, given the immense power of the Vampire, with top speeds over 500 miles per hour and a powerful engine, a de Havilland Goblin 3 centrifugal turbojet that powers 3,350 pounds a foot. It's incredible to think that such a powerful aircraft can also fly so silently in stealth mode and oh so gracefully. The Vampire was a mighty aircraft when fully armed with 4 20mm Hispano Mark V cannons, 8 3-inch 60-pound rockets, or 2 500-pound bombs, or 2 drop tanks. And eyes centre of the crowd as the Vampire creeps up on us, pulling up to the vertical, showing us the underbelly of the aircraft and that large fin as Ken flies so gracefully above us here on Clacton seafront, twirling as he reaches the top of the climb.
I said we had a lot of film stars with us today. This is this Vampire.